Calling All Authors, the Your Book, Your Voice podcast, hosted by Robert A. Lane, is on the air, featuring everything you need to know about narrating your own audiobook. But it doesn't stop there. From special guests, including authors and professionals from the book industry, to sharing tools and techniques needed to be a confident and compelling narrator. The journey starts now. So please welcome your host, Robert A. Lane.
So here's something to think about. Why is it that some people can remember every single detail about an audiobook that they listen to, yet they can't even remember what they had for breakfast that morning, right? What is that? Well, we're going to talk about audiobook psychology today on the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. Again, by the way, I am Robert A. Lane. I am an audiobook coach and producer. I specialize in helping, especially nonfiction authors, narrate your own audiobook and turn it into a great, compelling audiobook that you, as the author, narrate and get you published on Audible, Amazon, Apple, and any other distribution platform that works best for you. And love doing it, love helping you out. And again, really important what the psychology of audiobooks. We're going to dive into that because it really is important. It really is important. As an author, as an author brand, you've put the time and energy and blood, sweat, and tears into creating a fantastic audiobook or a fantastic book. So turning it into an audiobook only makes sense for you as the author, as the thing to up the level of your book. Get yourself in front of an audience that deserves to know that you're an author, but gives you the opportunity to share in your own voice your story. All right, so let's dive into some psychology, all right? A couple of stats I want to share with you. First of all, there's been a lot of research done. The audiobook world has been growing and expanding for over the last several years easily. And it continues to grow and expand at an average rate of about 26.4% annually. And that's pretty huge. Another stat that's really interesting is that between 83% of the population listens to audiobooks. So they have listened to at least one audiobook. So more and more people, again, are going to audiobooks first before they look into other formats of your book, your ebook, your paperback, your hardcover. Now, another incredible stat is that back in 2019, revenue for audiobooks surpassed ebook revenue. And that's a pretty astounding stat. And that gap continues to widen every year. Of course, that doesn't mean that your ebook or your paperback or your hardcover doesn't sell. Of course they do. And having all these different formats of your book is super important as an author, of course, because you are a brand. These are your products, and you're giving the people who love your storytelling, who are fans of you, who want to be able to follow you and your author brand, is you're giving them options. You're giving them options to read in a variety of formats, ebook, paperback, hardcover, and by turning your book into an audiobook, you're giving them that option to actually listen and hear you tell your story the way it's meant to be heard, because you're telling the story. All right. So again, very important. There's a lot of brain science that's involved in audiobook psychology. So we're going to break that down a little bit here. So let's talk about the spoken word versus reading, right? You have, again, reading your book and somebody listening to the audiobook version of your book. Now, one interesting fact to think about, and I get when you break this down, when you're reading, right, it requires, I guess you could say, a sense of mental decoding, right? So when you're reading a book, you are using your visual sense to interpret or decode, if you want to say, those letters and symbols that you're reading so you understand, so then you can comprehend what you're reading. So another thing happens is that in your mind, it does, in a sense, turn into sound in your brain because it's funny. I do this. A lot of people do this. Probably could be thousands of people that do this. When they're reading, they're actually hearing a voice in their mind as they're reading. So it's not your voice, of course, but it's the voice that's fabricated in the person who's reading the book. And there's some effort that is put on your subconscious and on your brain to process all of this to give you the comprehension and retention level that you want when you're reading a book. Now, when you listen to an audiobook, some of that process, some of that decoding is not needed because we're already in tune to, or even wired, you can say, to process speech, to listen to what's going on all around us, right? Comprehension and retention level does happen, and it happens quite quickly. And here's another really interesting thing when you really think about it. All through the generations, thousands of years ago, how were stories passed? Verbally, from generation to generation, right? That has been going on for thousands of years. Storytelling has been going on for thousands of years. And that, in a sense, is like listening to an audiobook. It's almost the same thing. So when you listen to an audiobook, you're just reigniting that natural ability that we have as human beings to understand and comprehend what we are hearing. So there is this debate that, and I've come across this with some authors, where they say, okay, well, no, you have to read a book. You got to read a book to really understand and really to retain and comprehend the information and the story, whatever is in that book, to really grasp it and retain it and comprehend it. You need to read it. Well, there have been studies that have proven that the retention level and the comprehension level of somebody who reads a book versus somebody who listens to an audiobook is exactly the same. Not one is better than the other. The only difference really is that you're using a different sense. You're using your visual sense or you're using your auditory sense. Either way, your brain is going to comprehend all that information. It still will comprehend it. So there is, neuroscience has proven this. Audio, again, listening does become more natural, but you got to be a good listener, right? And it does also help in engaging the emotion. Now, we do obviously feel that when we read, and we do feel that when we listen. But again, the main point to take away from this is that the retention level and the comprehension level of listening to an audiobook versus reading is the same. So if someone tries to tell you otherwise, that's not true. It's not true. The next thing about audiobook psychology and why it is so important for you as the author to narrate your own audiobook is you are creating a direct emotional connection with that listener. Hearing you tell your story in your own voice is so important because, number one, it's coming from the source. It's your story, especially if you've written a memoir. You've lived it, you've breathed it, you've experienced it. It's your experience. And then you've put it down, you've written it, it's down in written form, and you published it and you put it out there for the world to read. It only makes sense for you as the author to narrate your own audiobook because, again, it's your story. It's coming from the source. Nobody can tell your story better than you. Nobody can. And, the thing is, that's part of who you are. That's part of what your author brand is all about. Remember that. That's a key point of mindset, and the whole audiobook psychology aspect is understanding and embracing the fact that you are an entrepreneur, that you are a business, a brand. Your author brand is who you are. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's definitely worth talking about again, and that is understanding what your author brand is. What encompasses your author brand? Everything about you. Everything that makes you you. Your belief systems, your habits, your morals, your values, your sense of humor, your personality, the way you were brought up, all of these things, and your voice, especially your voice. All these things are what creates you. That's what makes you so unique. That is what allows you to stand out in the crowd. That is pretty awesome, to say the least. Hey, Bernard, how you doing? Glad you're checking out the podcast today. Appreciate it. But that's what makes you you. And having that mindset and understanding that you are a brand, you are an entrepreneur. The decisions that you make, and I love throwing out this catchphrase, is that you are the CEO of you. So the decisions that you make as an author should move your business forward. And that's why it's important to offer a variety of formats, ebook, paperback, hardcover, audiobook, to the people that follow you and that enjoy your story. But again, really what's most important about the emotional connection is that it's your story and nobody can express it better than you because you lived it. It's yours. AI ain't going to cover it, right? AI is computer generated. It's not even you. It's a misrepresentation of who you are. It's a misrepresentation of your author brand. You've put too much hard work in creating who you are. Why destroy that with AI? Okay. It's not you. Okay. You need to be represented accurately. And the only way to do it is having you narrate your own audiobook. It's that simple. Okay. And, I hear this all the time. Another narrator. Well, I could get another narrator. And that sounds great too. Because you know what? It would have been great when I did my audiobook for, I grab my book here. It's called Lights, Action, You. I wrote this book, published it in 2022, and of course did the audiobook version because, I'm an audio guy. What can I say? And it would have been great to have somebody like Morgan Freeman narrate my audiobook. But again, you can get the best narrator in the world, but understand that it's still their interpretation, right? It's not your interpretation. And that's a key factor in your audiobook psychology, because another narrator may interpret your book in a way and express it in a way that maybe that's not how you would tell your story. They can technically, and they will technically sound great, but again, it's your story, not theirs. I've used this example a lot, and it really could apply, and it applies to every author. For example, I've had a couple of authors who've gone through a cancer journey. I've had an author who was pulled into a religious cult. I mean, those are experiences that only those authors can express, because unless you've gone through it, and even if you've gone through something that's traumatic, it's still a personal experience to you, and you're going to experience it in a very, very personal way. That's going to be more than what a narrator is going to be able to interpret, because they didn't live it. You lived it. That's why that emotional aspect of audiobook psychology is so important, because it's your story. Okay. It is your story. No one can express that story better than you. And another thing when you are narrating your audiobook is be you, be yourself. And that's another huge part of audiobook psychology, is being your true authentic self. Don't try to sound like somebody else. Don't try to be like somebody else. Just be you, because that's what makes you unique. Again, going back to your author brand, that is what creates a great author brand, is you. That's what makes you so unique. That's what allows you to stand out in the crowd, because no one can replicate you. You are a unique individual, and you need to love that and embrace that. And part of loving and embracing your author brand and that authenticity of who you are is loving your voice. Loving your voice, appreciating this wonderful sound that comes out of your body. That is a key factor of who you are, and that allows you to stand out in the crowd because it's your voice. But you got to love your voice. You got to appreciate this lovely sound. People focus so much on, oh, I hate my voice. Oh, what are other people going to think? Nobody's going to want to hear me talk about my book. Why do they want to listen to my voice? You're so hung up on thinking of what other people think. You got to crush those false beliefs. I'm going to share a story with you. And I have this in my book, Lights, Action, You. I have another little catchphrase that I'm going to share with you. And this is something that you can say to yourself if you ever start doubting your ability to narrate your own audiobook. If I worked 30 plus years in the entertainment industry. My last 14 years or so was working I was at 20th Century Fox in Los Angeles, working on the studio lot. And I would go to the gym. They had a gym on the lot, and I would go there and work out maybe like 3-4 times a week. And I had a gym bag, okay? I had a gym bag, but my gym bag was a double-bagged brown paper bag from Trader Joe's, okay? That was my gym bag. And people would make fun of me and tease me and go, why don't you get a real gym bag, or whatever. Sometimes I'd feel very self-conscious about that. And that's where, this is what you do. And this is my little catchphrase of advice. First of all, first thing you say to yourself, and you say this as a statement of fact, and as, I don't care what other people think. And you're not saying it in a mean or vindictive way. You're stating fact. Right? You're not being all, I don't care what other people think. No. You're just stating a fact. I don't care what other people think. And you follow it up with this, and this is my catchphrase. I am who I am. I do what I do, and I am not ashamed of it. I am who I am. I do what I do, and I am not ashamed of it. And what that does, and what it did for me, and what it's done for others who I share this catchphrase with, is that it gives you this boost of confidence. Because you don't care what other people think. And you know what? 9 out of 10 times, they're not even thinking what you think they are thinking. They might not even be thinking about your voice or how you sound or whatever. Because you know what's most important, especially when it comes to narrating your own audiobook? It's the content. It's the story that you're telling. That's the most important thing. You have a great story to tell. And you know what? What was that fire that was lit under your butt that got you to write that book in the first place? There was something that compelled you to do that, to put yourself out there, to share, especially if it's a memoir, a personal story, that you were compelled enough to put it out there. Why? And that's the other thing. And that's another huge part of the audiobook psychology, is tapping into your why. Why did you write your book in the first place? Why is it so important for you to tell your story? Why do you need to share this with the world? And one of the most popular reasons that I've heard from authors is, and even for me when I wrote my book, is the fact that I want to help others. I want to share my experience because maybe somebody didn't share the exact experience that I did, but the lessons that I learned from that experience is what I want to share and what I want to express, maybe even teach others that can help them maybe go through whatever traumatic experience that they're dealing with. And now they have some other tools or other techniques or life lessons that someone else has gone through that they're sharing. That's why people write the book. That's why you share your memoir. That's why you tell your story, because you know what? Most people want to help others, and that's a great thing. When I wrote my book, Lights, Action, You, this is when I was really focusing on being a career coach and life coach. That's what I decided to do after I left the entertainment industry. And so there's a lot of tools and techniques and things that I share. I mean, I share, and I make it entertaining. I share a bunch of stories and experiences from working in the entertainment industry. And but with each story, I share a tool or a technique or a life lesson or something that can help others. That's what it's all about. And that's why I wrote the book. So you get an entertainment story and you get some life lessons and some tools and techniques to help you. I focus a lot of it on the career side, so that you can really attain true work-life balance, because that's what it's all about. When you write a memoir, right, you're sharing this great story, this experience that other people can relate to. There's authors. I just thought of another author. His name's Mark Hall, by the way. He's written a book about an accident he had back in 2000, I think it was 2007, where he had a bad car accident and he became paralyzed from the neck down. And he wrote a book about his story and his experience. What a great memoir. Because now maybe you didn't have something as traumatic like that happen to you, but to be able to rise from the ashes and to carry on and live a life after something traumatic. Or I had another author, Kelsey McHenry. She wrote a great book that helped her do her audiobook she talks about how she lost her husband, and to deal with that and to come out, again, rising from the ashes, being that phoenix that rises from the ashes and carries on. These are incredible stories. These are inspiring stories. That's the psychology, right? That's the audiobook psychology. And that's why you are always tapped into your core reason of why you wrote your book in the first place, because that comes out in your audiobook narration. Important. Yeah, it's good stuff. And one last thing about audiobook psychology is this. When you are narrating your own audiobook, you are leaving a legacy in your own voice coming from the source. So someone who discovers your audiobook 100 years from now, right? They can hear you tell your story coming from the person who experienced it, not some historian who wrote about somebody else and giving their take. No. You're giving the firsthand account because you lived it. That's a great legacy to leave. That is fantastic. If you're considering turning your book into an audiobook, definitely do so. As an audiobook coach and producer, I help, again, nonfiction authors and even fiction authors as well, narrate your own audiobook, get you published on Audible, Amazon, Apple, and any other distribution platform that you want to be on. That's what I do. I'd love to be able to help you out. There's links in the description, both on here on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Click on the link. There's information about, I have a do-it-yourself program where you can narrate your own audiobook, and I take you through the steps, all the steps. I'm very methodical. So all the steps to create a great audiobook if you want to do it on your own. I also have a VIP program where I send you professional equipment to set up your own recording space, and I coach you every step of the way. I do all the editing for you because you need to edit your audiobook, and I do all the uploading for you so you get published and you are published correctly the first time. No rejections, guaranteed. So check it out. There's links in there are definitely links there in the description. You can also go to robertlanecoaching.com to get more information about what I do as an audiobook coach and producer. And by the way, I do another feature called Coffee Chat, and I do that live here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and also Instagram at my Instagram page at Robert Lane Coaching. I'm going to talk about audiobook marketing in my next episode, so make sure you check that out. All my coffee chats, all the podcasts are archived on my YouTube channel at Robert Lane Coaching. And of course, the podcast does get distributed to your favorite podcast platform the following day, so make sure you grab that. But you can join me for Coffee Chat every Thursday at, what do I do that? 9:30 a.m. Pacific. That's 12:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 4:30 p.m. in the UK. Check it out. It's open forum, and you can join in. That's when I do it live, just like I do these podcasts live as well before they get archived. But if there's any topics, by the way, that you would like me to talk about, whether on Coffee Chat or here on the podcast, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. All right. So with that, my friends, I want to say this, and I always end the podcast, my coffee chats, anything that I do live. I give you an assignment, and that assignment is this. When you're out and about in the world, smile at a stranger, say hello to them, give them a compliment, because that small gesture of kindness can make the world of difference in somebody's life. We all wear masks. We hide behind our masks. Hey, look at that. I'm having a great day. How you doing? I'm doing great. But maybe you're just having a bad day. Or maybe you are going through something traumatic and maybe you're hurting really deep inside. But just sharing that little act of kindness takes less than 5 seconds to smile at somebody, say hello, and give them a compliment. That small gesture of kindness really does make a difference. So be a life changer. Be a life changer. All right, my friends. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, or go to my YouTube page and subscribe. Subscribe at Robert Lane Coaching. Follow me on Instagram at Robert Lane Coaching. And you can go to robertlanecoaching.com to find out more information about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. Again, there are links in the description as well. Click on those links, check it out. I'd love to help you create an awesome audiobook, as you should. You definitely need to expand your reach, get into the audiobook world. There's a million people out there, millions of people who listen to audiobooks that haven't discovered you yet. So turn your book into an audiobook. All right, my friends, this is going to wrap it up for the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. You have a fantastic day and a fantastic week. Be good humans.
And remember, only you can narrate your story the way it's meant to be heard.